Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending the Monoxivent Source Capture Systems webinar. Monoxivent manufactures source capture equipment, and there's two main reasons for utilizing this type of equipment. Number one, it is the most effective way of protecting the breathing zone of the worker. And number two, generally speaking, it's less expensive to capture a contaminant at its source and evacuate that contaminant to the outside in the case of vehicle exhaust, or to a dust collection in the case of welding exhaust or woodworking type exhaust. Now, Monoxivent started in Detroit in 1953, so we've been around for a long time. We started with some very simple systems. The picture on the bottom left shows a hose with a tailpipe adapter. The tailpipe adapter is attached to the vehicle tailpipe, and then the hose is sent through the door by the use of a door port. So we're simply using the velocity of the exhaust as it comes out the tailpipe and evacuating that exhaust to the outside. The picture on the right shows an underground system. Underground systems used to be very popular. They're not as popular today because there are many other options, but we still sell quite a few of them today, and we've made some improvements. Now, Monoxivent moved to the Rock Island area in the mid-1990s, and then in the year 2000 we were purchased by a company called Crawford. Now, Crawford has several different divisions: plumbing, commercial heating and cooling, residential heating and cooling, laser cutting, and brew systems. But what really helps the Monoxivent division is the specialty welded fabrication division of Crawford. That allows us to take a look at an application, and if there's not an off-the-shelf solution for it, we can design one, fabricate it, try it out, and as long as it works, we can mass produce it. Now, this is kind of a synopsis of Crawford and its many divisions, but what I like to point out here is the brewing system. Not just because I like craft beer and the brewing system is a very cool system, but if you look at the tanks themselves, they're like a piece of art. So if you take a look at the fabrication of those tanks, the welding, the sophistication of the fabrication, it really does a nice job of advertising our capabilities for custom products. And Monoxivent does a lot of custom products for this industry. Now, why is source capture important? Well, there's many rules and regulations locally, regionally, and nationally that call for the elimination of this type of exhaust. In particular, diesel exhaust, the particulate from diesel exhaust is a known carcinogen. It can cause cancer, and we want to do everything we can to reduce that possibility. So it's very important that we capture that contaminant at its source and eliminate it to the outside to protect the breathing zone of the worker. Okay, so this is a Monoxivent spring hose reel, and the spring hose reel operates almost like a window shade. So when we pull that hose down, once we stop pulling, the spring mechanism locks or latches in place, and therefore we would take the hose and attach it to the tailpipe of the vehicle. When we're done, we would pull that hose down again, and it would unlatch and begin to recoil, and the hose reel will recoil to the point where we see that black ring on the hose. That's called a hose stop, and that's important because I need that hose to stop recoiling when that tailpipe adapter is about 6 feet above finished floor. So that hose stop is adjustable, and the reason for that is because sometimes we're installed at 14 feet above finished floor, sometimes 20 or 24 feet above finished floor, and occasionally as high as 34 to 40 feet above finished floor. But no matter where we're installed at, we can reposition that black hose stop so that the hose will stop recoiling when the tailpipe adapter is about 6 feet above finished floor. Again, so that the average sized person can be able to reach up and grab it, because you need to reach it and grab it in order to use it. So with that being said, I think most people can understand how you would use a spring hose reel on an under chassis tailpipe, but the video that I'm about to show you shows an application where all the vehicles are vertical stacks. So if you take a look at the video, you'll see it's relatively easy and user-friendly to be able to use a lifting pole. You put the lifting pole in the lifting sleeve that's on the tailpipe adapter, and you position it right over the vertical stack. The other thing to notice in this particular video is the relatively short length of hose, and that's a cost-saving method. So because we don't have much reach to go from the hose reel to the vertical stack, we're able to put a shorter length of hose, thus reducing the cost of the overall system.
Monoxivent creates innovative air cleaning systems for workspace environments. Monoxivent hose reels are the premier solution for vehicle exhaust fume extraction. Our spring hose reels offer a convenient and efficient method for extracting harmful emissions from all types of service areas or any indoor location where internal combustion engines are run. We offer motor-operated and manual spring retractable models that are delivered completely assembled and ready for installation. Spring hose reels can be connected with ductwork to a central exhaust system, or each reel may be equipped with a direct mount fan. Monoxivent spring hose reels are offered in 4, 5, 6, or 8-inch models. The two most popular hose types are the Monoxivent 4000 series, a high-temperature silicone product, and the 5000 series, a medium-temperature polyester product. A variety of hose and tailpipe adapter options are available. Product information and specifications are available on our website.
Okay, next we have what we call a dual spring cassette. So anything over 8-inch diameter hose, we're going to automatically put you in a motorized hose reels. And motorized hose reels are excellent, but they are more expensive. So what we've done to try and keep you in the spring hose reel family is by putting a second spring cassette on this particular hose reel, it allows us to handle the majority of 8-inch applications without having to step you up into a motorized hose reel. So it's a cost-saving measure. Now, we can theoretically put 44 feet of 8-inch diameter hose on this dual spring cassette hose reel. Now in reality, if we put 44 feet of hose there and we needed 42, 43 feet of hose, when we get to that length, the pullback or the tension on the spring is going to be so strong that it wants to pull it out of your hands. So although we theoretically can do 44 feet of hose, we recommend that you stick at about 36 feet of 8-inch diameter hose on this particular hose reel. Next, we have our motorized hose reels. The picture on the left shows what we call our box motor or direct drive, and the picture on the right is what we call a tube type motor. And if I were to pull that black handle and open up that area, you would see a chain with a sprocket and a gear. Now each of these hose reels have different weight capacities. We would put you in one or the other depending on the type of hose, the length of hose, and the diameter of hose. Based on that information, we would pick either the box motor or the tube type motor. You would never have to worry about that. We would put you in one or the other based on that criteria, again, of the hose diameter, hose length, and so on. Now, up to this point, I've said anything over 8-inch diameter, we're going to automatically put you in a motorized hose reel. Well, there are other scenarios where a motorized hose reel is a great solution. So I'm going to show you a video now. And when the video opens, you'll see a fire truck up on a lift and a pickup truck pulling into that bay. All things being equal, we could have used a spring hose reel, 6-inch diameter hose, 600 CFM. But in this particular case, there's an overhead crane that travels back and forth over that same work area. And with my spring hose reel, because I need the hose hanging down to be able to utilize it, it would be an impediment to the travel of the crane. So in that scenario, a motorized hose reel would allow us to wrap the hose all the way around the drum by simply pushing a button on a wall, and we could clear the pathway of the overhead crane.
Monoxivent creates innovative air cleaning systems for workspace environments. Monoxivent's hose reels are the premier solution for vehicle exhaust fume extraction. Our motorized hose reels can be found in military applications, aircraft ventilation, dyno labs, auto repair facilities, garage settings, high ceiling bay applications, facilities with overhead cranes, or any indoor location. Our motorized hose reels offer a convenient and efficient method for extracting harmful emissions from all types of service areas or any indoor location where internal combustion engines are run. We offer motor-operated and manual spring retractable models that are delivered completely assembled and ready for installation. Motorized hose reels can be connected with ductwork to a central exhaust system, or each reel may be equipped with a direct mount fan. Monoxivent motorized hose reels are offered in a variety of standard widths from 4 to 8 inches to an XL series of 8 to 18 inches. The most popular hose type is the Monoxivent 4000 series, a high-temperature silicone product. A variety of hose and tailpipe adapter options are available. Product information and specifications are available on our website.
Okay, next we have what we call our XL series. Those are extra large hose reels. Now these hose reels can handle up to 65 feet of 18-inch diameter hose wrapped completely around the drum. Where you may have a need for these? Well, a couple of applications. We have them at Fort Lee in Virginia and Fort Stewart in Georgia. And these are military installations that bring in military mechanics, and they teach them how to maintain the equipment that they're going to see out in the field. So it could be very large pieces of equipment. As an example, it could be tanks or troop haulers or things like that. Next, we have a complete solution. So what I like about this picture is you have your hose reel, you have your hose, you have your tailpipe adapter, and you have a direct mount fan. Now in this configuration, the discharge of the fan is going up as if it were to go through the roof, but you could rotate the position of the discharge so that if you decided you'd rather go through a sidewall, you can simply rotate the discharge and point it towards the sidewall. Now again, this is a complete solution, has a very small footprint, doesn't take up a lot of room, and it works great. Another thing that we can do with this is we can put a switch on here. It's called the DMSHR switch, or direct mount switch to hose reel. And what that does, by mounting that switch, when we pull the hose down, the fan can start automatically. And when we let the hose recoil, the fan can turn off automatically. So this, as an example, we sell a lot of these to high school auto lab shops, and this is a nice way to ensure that when the kids pull that hose down and they attach it to a running engine, the fan is on and operating. So we're eliminating that type of exhaust. Another thing that we can do is you don't have to mount the fan directly on the hose reel. So let's say we have an application with 5 hose reels and 1 central fan. We can put that DMSHR switch on all 5 hose reels, and you daisy chain them together so that when the first hose reel hose is pulled down, the fan starts, and when the last hose on the hose reel is recoiled, the fan turns off. This is our design worksheet. This is designed to ask the questions that we'll need the answers to if you would like our help in designing a system. So there's a lot of good information on there. At the very least, we need to know cubic inch of displacement or liter size of the engine, and what is the maximum operating RPM of the engine. So we would like all of this filled out, but if you can't get it all, at the very least we need that type of information so we can properly design a system for you. This is our overhead system. If you look at the middle picture, that's a standard Monoxivent overhead system. And an overhead system works similarly to a hose reel in the sense that everything is kept up and off the floor, so you have a nice, safe working environment. The system is designed to capture 100% of what's conveyed to the tailpipe, plus we like to bring in 20% ambient air. And there's 2 reasons for that. One, by bringing in the ambient air, we're ensuring that there are no leaks back into the work environment. And number 2, the ambient air helps cool the exhaust as it's going through the equipment. So a spring hose reel works great, very similar to the hose reel. The positives are that it's actually less expensive than a hose reel. The negatives would be that it's not as aesthetically pleasing as a hose reel. So really the decision on whether to use hose reels or overhead systems often come down to the end user, what their budget allows for, and truthfully what their tastes allow for. And then if you look at the pictures on the left and the right, that's what we call our RTS, or retractable telescoping system. Now that is the least expensive system that we offer. it's roughly $450 list price, and that's including what you see below the ductwork. So obviously that's not the ductwork or the fan. And again, it's a very simple down and dirty type exhaust system. Basically, if you look at the first section, or the section closest to the floor, it's a 3-inch diameter hose and it has a tailpipe adapter. The second section is 4-inch diameter and the third section is 5-inch diameter. So when not in use, you can fit all sections inside each other, and then that silver collar that you see just below the red hose section has an eyelet on it, and the tailpipe adapter has a chain with an S-hook. So we simply fit everything together, put the S-hook in the eyelet, and that's how we keep it up and off the floor. When we want to use it, we simply take the S-hook out of the eyelet, everything will come down, and we can attach it to the vehicle. So the benefits of this system are, again, it's very inexpensive, works great. The negative might be that because our lowest section is only 3-inch diameter hose, you really can't do more than about 150 CFM through that hose. Therefore, this application, or this solution, is only good for automobiles and only in a tune-up or idling type application. But there are several applications like that, including car dealerships.
Monoxivent creates innovative air cleaning systems for workspace environments. Monoxivent's conventional overhead systems offer a user-friendly and cost-effective solution to the problem of breathing contaminants in the workplace. Our systems can be found in auto dealerships, motorcycle shops, light or heavy-duty equipment repair facilities, garage settings, railroad, bus transit, and manufacturing facilities. Overhead systems incorporate many hose types and lifting configurations, including boom, duct, and pivoting crane mounts. The hose types range from high-temperature silicone to medium-temperature polyester. Lifting configurations include ropes, pulleys, and cable balancers. Retractable telescoping system and swivel booms offer alternatives for overhead exhaust extraction. Complete your package by adding a direct mount fan for a standalone system, or connect to ductwork and a central fan. A variety of hose and tailpipe adapter options are available. For more information on specific products and models, visit the product section of our website.
Okay, next we have our swivel boom arms and pack arms, or pivoting articulated cranes. So basically the one on the left is a swivel boom arm. It comes standard up to 13 feet long. We can make custom lengths longer if we need them, and they have a shoulder joint. So this allows us to reach into an area where maybe there's not a wall or a column to attach our equipment to. So as you can see in this picture, it's an overhead drop, but it could be a hose rail, it could be a it could be a hose reel, it could be a welding arm or source capture arm, it could be a retractable telescoping system, something like that. And then the picture on the right is what we call our pivoting articulated crane. Now the difference between the two is the swivel boom arm has a shoulder joint, so it allows us to reach out into an area and kind of cover the circumference of that area. With the pack arm, or the pivoting articulating crane arm on the right, that comes standard up to 20 feet in length. We can make longer custom lengths if we need to, but it has a shoulder joint and an elbow joint. So not only can it reach the circumference of a particular area, but it'll allow us to reach into that area by bending that part of the crane arm where you see the elbow joint. So it allows us to cover a larger area. Now the picture on the left shows a custom pack arm that we did for an application out in Denver, Colorado. This particular application was for a fleet of snow removal equipment, and they had one maintenance bay that they worked on this equipment. Now the fleet of snow removal equipment wasn't all by the same manufacturer, so some of the vehicles have vertical stack, some had mid chassis or below chassis tailpipes. So they wanted one point of source capture. Now if I laid this arm completely out, it would be 32 foot long. The wall bracket alone is 6 foot long, and then we have a shoulder joint and then 2 elbow joints, and then we have a simple drop. So you can manipulate this in this area and you can cover every square inch of that particular bay so that whatever vehicle is brought in there, we're able to handle the application. Okay, so this slide shows our portable fume eliminator, and the idea behind this solution is it allows us to bring our source capture solution to the vehicle as opposed to always parking the vehicle where we have a source capture solution. And it's a very simple system. Basically, we have a steel frame with 4 casters. The gray box is our fan. The hose coming out of the top of the fan is our collection hose. And in this configuration, it is set up for vertical stack vehicles. So note the adjustable stack cane to add support for the vertical stack adapter, and then we have the gray hose there, and in the middle of that hose you see a coupler. So again, in this configuration it's set for vertical stack, but if my next vehicle coming in is a below chassis tailpipe, I simply disconnect at the connector or coupler area there, and off to the side on a wall I would have a hose storage rack with a section of hose, and one end of that hose would have a coupler and the other would have a tailpipe adapter. So I would simply bring it over, I would disconnect this coupler and then connect the hose coupler, and that quickly and easily I'm set for a below chassis tailpipe. Then on the other side we have our hose reel with our discharge hose, and again in this configuration it's a hose reel which makes it very user friendly as far as recoiling the hose and moving the system around as needed, but the hose reel does add cost. So if cost is of concern, we can eliminate the hose reel and just simply put a hose storage rack there, and we can store the discharge hose on it. And then when we're ready, we would take the discharge hose and we can run the discharge hose through a man door or an overhead door, or what I like to do is design an area with door ports and wall ports in it, and I can simply take my discharge hose and run it through a door port or a wall port and discharge the exhaust through there. So we're capturing the exhaust on one end and we're discharging it on the other. This is our in-ground system. Now an in-ground system has a lot of positive attributes. As you can see in the picture on the right, when it's not in use, everything is clear. You have a nice, safe, clean working environment. When you want to use it, you simply open the floor port. The hose is stored inside. You pull the hose out and you attach it to the vehicle. Now the hose is attached to ductwork. The ductwork is all underground. Eventually it's connected to a riser, to a fan. It's all under negative pressure. We're capturing the exhaust and we're eliminating it to the outside. Now the negative part of an underground system is that normally speaking engineers specify either galvanized ductwork or PVC coated galvanized ductwork, and the earth is corrosive by nature. So there's going to be elements in the earth that are going to attack that ductwork, and then to make things worse we introduce water and rock salt and debris into the inside of the ductwork. So what's happened in the past is that that type of ductwork starts to corrode. And when it begins to corrode, it can collapse on itself and really impede your airflow. And once that occurs, the only way to correct it would be to pull up all that flooring, pull up all that ducting, and replace it. So at that point, most people just shut everything down and go with an overhead. But what we've done is we've created what we call our VE underduct. And the VE underduct is a fiberglass reinforced plastic ductwork that has been created and designed to handle the temperatures that you'll see with vehicle exhaust applications. But the beauty of this product is that it's not negatively impacted by the corrosive nature of the earth. So it is not going to corrode, therefore it won't collapse, therefore your airflow will not be impeded. So chances are this ductwork will be in position probably longer than the building itself. Now, Underduct VE is the only non-metallic vehicle exhaust duct certified to meet building code by the International Code Council. And this is one of the points that really helps separate us from our competitors. The other thing about this is, normally speaking, when you buy vehicle exhaust systems from Monoxivent, we don't supply the ductwork, right? Because the ductwork is going to come, generally speaking, from a local mechanical contractor. But in this case, because we make the VE underduct, we would supply a complete system including the ductwork. So it's one source shopping, one point of responsibility. Alright, next is our Norphe system. Now a Norphe system is a rail system, and you may be familiar with them in fire stations. So they utilize this type of equipment in fire stations where vehicles are in tandem and they follow each other out, or for fire stations that are designed for drive-through type applications. Well, Monoxivent does not service the emergency vehicle marketplace, but we do utilize these rail systems in several different applications. Probably the most popular is in car dealerships. So as an example, let's say we're designing a car dealership and that car dealership has 8 bays. my first question if I'm designing the system with the car dealership owner is, hey, how many engines would be running at the same time? And again, we have 8 bays. It's never 100%. There's usually a diversity factor of 30 or 40%, something like that. So let's say the car dealership owner says, well, Mike, I never do more than 3 engines at any one time. So my next question to him would be, out of these 8 bays, do you want to just designate 3 bays? We'll outfit it with this type of source capture equipment, and that's where you'll run your vehicles. And normally speaking, they would say, no, I have 8 bays. I need the flexibility to start an engine in any of my 8 bays. So theoretically, I would need to put 8 hose reels in, or 8 overhead systems, 1 for each bay, so that they could run the vehicles in those bays. With my rail system, I can run my rail from bay 1 to bay 8, and as you can see in the picture in the middle, in this case it's an overhead drop, and it's attached to a trolley, and these trolleys can run up and down the rail. So basically, if I run my rail from bay 1 to bay 8, I put 3 trolleys with drops on them, because we never run more than 3 engines at the same time, and I can move these trolleys up and down that area, covering the bays that have an engine that's running in it. So let's say I'm running an engines in bay 8, 5, and 1. I simply take the first rail down, or a trolley down, and put it in bay 8, the next one in bay 5, and the next one in bay 1, and I'm able to handle the application without having to put 8 hose rails in, or 8 overhead systems. Now, I'm often asked, well, Mike, is there a cost savings for this? In that particular scenario, I ran the numbers, a rail system with 3 overhead drops versus 8 hose reels, and the equipment cost, there was about a 7 to 10% differential between hose reels versus the rail system with the 3 drops. The rail system being 10%, 7% to 10% less expensive. But there is a significant savings in the installation part of this application. So basically, it's much less expensive to install 1 rail and 3 drops versus the 8 hose reels and all of the ductwork and everything that comes with this type of a system. Here's some application photos. In this case, it looks like it's the ALU 150, where the trolley reels ride on the outside of the rail. Now, we have 3 different types. We have the Techno Rail, which is the most popular, and the trolley wheels ride on the inside of the rail, and basically we do that up to about 6-inch diameter. So if you think about it like sizing ductwork, anything up to about 6-inch, 600 CFM per drop, we would use the Techno Rail. Then when we get into larger applications, we would bump it up to the ALU 150, and even larger up to the ALU 250. And we can go larger than that, maybe for trains and things like that. Now, we can also do our hose reels on rail systems. We can do our RTS on rail systems. We could also do source capture arms on rail systems. So the rail is a very versatile product. There are many applications that you could utilize rail in, and the beauty of the rail, it gives you a lot of flexibility and minimizes the number of drops that you need. Alright, so here's some tailpipe adapters. Now, these tailpipe adapters are a very high quality tailpipe adapter, and along with that quality comes a higher price. So most entities aren't in need of that type of a quality tailpipe and aren't willing to pay for it, but some insist on it. So we wanted to make sure that we have these very good quality products available to you as well. But this would be your standard tailpipe adapter. So we have rubber, we have stainless steel, galvanized vice grips, spring clamps. We have Y-kit assemblies for dual exhaust. Basically, whatever configuration the manufacturers come out with for their tailpipe or vertical stack, we have solutions for them. And when they come out with new ones, we have the capacity to design them, fabricate them, and utilize them for those applications. Okay, this slide shows the system sizing guidelines, and the most important information on this slide is where it says normal, tune-up, or idling type applications. So again, this is not for dynamometers, it's not for heavy hydraulic testing or heavy pump testing. We have systems for that. This is simply for the normal tune-up or idling type applications. So for cars and light trucks, we would use a 4-inch diameter hose and size it for 300 CFM. For medium trucks and light buses, so maybe ambulance-sized vehicles, I would use 5-inch diameter hose and 450 CFM. And then for dump trucks and semi-trucks and large buses and some industrial equipment, some agricultural equipment, we would use 6-inch diameter hose and 600 CFM. And we would size the ductwork for the 2,000 to 2,500 feet per minute conveying velocity. And we get this information through the Industrial Ventilation Guidebook. We use those rules kind of as our guide for system design. And the 2,000 to 2,500 feet per minute conveying velocity will allow us to capture the exhaust and its particulate and keep it in our airstream until we deposit it where we want it deposited, as opposed to the particulate falling out in the ductwork along the way. Alright, so recommended hose types. Our 5000 series hose is perfect for cars and light trucks and tune-up applications. That can do 350 degrees continuous and up to 550 degrees intermittent. Our 4000 series hose is good for all the other vehicles, buses, semi-trucks, things like that. We can do, or that hose can do 600 degrees continuous and up to 1250 degrees intermittent. Now, one thing I always like to point out, especially to our engineers, is it's very important that you say continuous if you want a hose that can do a continuous temperature. As an example, if a specification comes out and it says 600 degrees, but it doesn't say continuous or intermittent, it just says 600 degrees, Monoxivent is going to assume that you meant 600 degrees continuous, and that's the product or the hose that we're going to quote. Well, unfortunately, some of our competitors will read that, and although it's not logical, they'll say, oh, 600 degrees, they must mean intermittent, and they will put a lower temperature rated, less expensive hose in their quote. The problem is they may win the bidding process because they're less expensive, and there's, these are really tight applications or tight margins, but your customer will be dissatisfied because that hose will have a very short life because it's not designed to handle those 600 degrees continuous if it was designed for intermittent. So just by putting the word continuous in your specification, you're much more likely to get the hose that you want, and really more importantly, what the end user needs for their particular application. Alright, so fume detection systems. These are in general, for areas where you can't use source capture. Now, sometimes you would combine this with source capture systems, but generally speaking, these are going to be utilized in areas where you can't do source capture. So an example of that would be a public parking garage where you can't attach a hose reel to a vehicle. What these do is these monitor the air quality, and then when the exhaust levels get to a certain point, the sensor sets an alarm, and the alarms are tied into general ventilation fans. So when that alarm is reached, it tells the fan to open up and it evacuates the air in those particular areas. So we don't make these. In particular, these are Honeywell, but we add them to the Monoxivent product offering as a way to do one-stop shopping and one point of responsibility. Alright, next we have what we call our source capture arms. So this particular one is called an internally supported arm, and what that means is there's a support structure internal to the hose environment. And this system, that structure, allows you to manipulate that arm in a position where it's right at where your exhaust is being started, right? So if you're welding, it's right near your welding point, or if you're soldering, right near your soldering point, or if you're collecting dry powder, right where that dry powder dust plume is going to be started. So you position your arm, and then you can have your hands free, and it'll maintain that position. So what we have here is these come in 6-inch or 8-inch diameter, 7, 10, or 14-foot lengths. They come standard with a polycarbonate hood with a handle and a damper, and you could use a direct mount fan like you see in the picture, or you could tie it into a central fan. Now, on any of the arms that I show you through this presentation, we can also do a light kit and a fan on off switch right on the hood, so that basically you position the arm, you can hit a switch and turn your fan on, hit a switch and turn your light on, and you have your hands free to do your application. Next is what we call our telescopic welding arm. This is probably our most popular arm. When it's not extended, it's about 3 feet. You can extend it out to about 7 feet. It's completely positionable. We sell a lot of these to welding applications, maybe at high schools or at apprenticeship training centers where maybe they have a booth set up, and for whatever reason they tend to undersize these booths. Well, these arms are very popular because they have a lot of flexibility and they don't take up much space. Now you're going to see in the video, take a look at the video, you'll see a couple of different things. First of all, I'll point out that when we're showing a telescopic welding arm in the video, you see it actually has a stainless steel welding cone, so there are different hood or cone adapters for these arms. And secondly, take a look at the reach that we're able to get when we put a source capture arm on with a pack arm.
Monoxivent creates innovative air cleaning systems for workspace environments. Monoxivent's self-supporting arms allow for longer reach and an extended range of motion. These arms can be found in welding, maintenance and machine shops, trade schools, training and union halls, and lab and industrial environments. The arms provide safe and versatile solutions to eliminate welding smoke, dust, and other hazardous airborne particulate before entering the breathing zone. They are available in 7, 10, and 14-foot lengths and 6 or 8-inch diameters. They are easily articulated and come with adjustable friction joints. Monoxivent offers both internally and externally supported arms, including pivoting articulating cranes and booms. Mini arms are available for laboratory and corrosive applications. For more information on specific products and models, visit the product section of our website.
Okay, next we have an externally supported arm, and all that means is that the support structure is external to the hose environment. Everything else that we talked about is very similar. So this particular arm comes in 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, or 8-inch, 7, 10, and 13-foot lengths. Lastly is another externally supported arm. Now this is our most customizable arm. And what I mean by that, it comes standard in 6-inch or 8-inch diameter hose, 7, 10, or 14-foot lengths. But as an example, one of our competitors offers a 3-foot arm. We can make this in 3-foot. If you needed this arm with 4-inch diameter hose, we can make it with 4-inch diameter hose. So this is just a very customizable arm. Next we have the boom and the pack, and again, like we spoke about earlier, these are ways to extend the reach of our standard product offering. Okay, some simple sizing guidelines for welding and fume applications. For standard production type welding, we're going to use a 6-inch diameter arm. We're going to be 600 700 CFM. But let's say we regularly weld on a pre-lubed or oily type material. In that case, we're going to, as it heats up, it's going to generate a lot of smoke. We may go to an 8-inch diameter arm utilizing 1000 to 1200 CFM, so that we make sure that we're able to capture that larger exhaust cloud. We're going to, the sizing guidelines for the ductwork, we're going to use 2000 to 2500 feet per minute conveying velocity. Again, very similar to the exhaust that we see for vehicle exhaust. We want to make sure that we capture the contaminant, keep it in our airflow, and then expel it where we want it expelled. All right, these are our mini arms. These come from 2-inch to 4-inch. They can be wall mounted, desktop mounted, or ceiling mounted. Different material depending on the application, and different hood configurations dependent on the application. We can also do what we call the LFK kit, or local filter kit, where let's say you have a welding, or not welding, but a soldering type application. You have a small soldering bench. Maybe you don't want to tie into your central fan system. The LFK kit comes with a small adjustable speed fan with a small cartridge collector and 1 or 2 arms. So the cartridge collector can fit right underneath the desk. You put your, or the bench, you put your arm or 2 arms on top of the bench, and you're able to capture the exhaust from, in this case, a soldering application, and keep everything right there, clean it through the cartridge system, and then expel that air right back into the work environment. All right, dust collection. So Monoxivent can make our own dust collectors, but normally we'll go with an established manufacturer that OEMs these types of products for us. We also do the same with cyclone collection. Now, cyclone collectors are great, especially if you're working with schools maybe or woodworking shops. The idea with these is we want to capture the wood particulate. The idea with the cyclone collector is that it spins out all its largest particulate, drops it into a drum or a hopper, and then the air goes through to an after filter that's going to clean out the rest of the smaller particulate, and then in some cases we can evacuate that right back into the building. So if you have air that's been treated, whether heated or cooled, maybe that's an idea where we want to save that energy. So we're going to capture that air, we're going to clean that air, and then we're going to put it right back into the building. Alright, so this is an application data sheet for dust collection, but truthfully for us, if you want our help in designing a system, there's 3 fundamental questions. What is the dust? What is the volume of dust? What do you want to do with the dust once it's captured? After we get that information, those answers will lead us to more questions in a particular area, but we need to start with those fundamental questions. Alright, this is what we call our portable cartridge filtration system. This system is designed for spot welding type applications, for maintenance welding type applications, construction sites where you're going to be moving from one site to another. It comes with 4 casters, a fan, a cartridge, and a clean out drawer. It comes standard with a 6-inch arm, either 7 or a 10-foot diameter, and then a standard cord. So basically you wheel it to where you want it, you position your arm, plug the cord into a standard outlet, we're able to capture the exhaust and then clean it and evacuate that air once it's cleaned back into the work environment. Now we also have what we call our portable HEPA filtration system, and that's for a higher level of filtration. So maybe we're working in a hospital or a clean room, we can capture the air, we can clean it through the HEPA filtration system and then evacuate that air back into the work environment. We can also do a combination filter with carbon if we're trying to eliminate odor. Next is our Fill2 portable fume capture system, and this system is almost a 3-in-1 type system. So if you look at the middle picture, it's a downdraft table where you can weld or grind, capture the exhaust, clean it, and send it out through the rear. But we could also get rid of the downdraft table platform and put an arm on it, and we can use it as a portable welding system. We can also, look at the picture on the right, do that from the side with just a hose. So you have great flexibility where you can attach it to an area where you're doing some type of a welding process and capture it that way. Alright, these are standard downdraft tables. Basically they're workbench where you can grind or weld or solder. We're capturing the exhaust, we're cleaning it. If it's clean enough, we'll evacuate it right out to the back. Otherwise we would tie it into a dust collector or a scrubber. Now this particular one is we did for a large manufacturer in the Rock Island area specifically, so we did this whole project. But what's neat about this system is if you look at the downdraft table in the picture on the bottom right, it's ergonomically designed. It has a hydraulic pedal that allows us to raise or lower the work table itself depending on the height of the operator. So, you know, a tall person doesn't have to bend over too far and a short person doesn't have to reach up too high. It allows them to work in their comfort area. Now in this particular case, we made all the downdraft tables, we did all the duct work, all the booths, tied it into our dust collection system, and this very large manufacturer was very pleased with the outcome. Alright, custom hoods. So again, I've demonstrated our customization and fabrication capabilities, so this is just a natural progression. We can do all different types of hoods. Fume hoods, slotted fume hoods, canopy hoods, barrel hoods, things like that. Just another example of what we can do. Okay, here's an example of the design worksheet. This is available on our website. This particular one is for an overhead canopy hood. You can simply fill in the dimensions and send it in to us or send it to your local Monoxivent rep, and between the two of us we'll be happy to provide you with a quote. Here's another example of a design worksheet. This is for a custom slotted barrel hood. Again, you can just fill in your dimensions and send it in to us or your Monoxivent rep. Or if there's not an available design worksheet based on the hood that you're looking for, simply send us in a drawing with dimensions, and again, we're more than happy to work with you and provide you with a price. Alright, so fans, there's some great fan manufacturers out there. For us, the bottom line is as long as our design criteria is met, our systems will work as advertised. So again, Greenhack, Cook, Twin Cities, I mean, I can't name them all. A lot of great fan manufacturers, but we want to make sure our design criteria is met, and if it is, our system will work as advertised. Now over to the right where you see the radial blade fans, we manufacture these ourselves right in Rock Island. These are aluminum casted, so they're spark resistant by construction. We put a standard Beldor motor on it, but if we need an explosion proof, we can put an explosion proof motor on them. These are the ones that you saw directly mounted to hose reels or source capture arms, or we can put them on a foot mount base, or we can put them on a wall bracket. They can be inside or outside. They go from 0.5 horsepower to 3 horsepower. So this is an excellent quality fan at an excellent price, manufactured right in the USA in Rock Island, Illinois. Hoses. The 1000 and 2000 series hose, we used to use it, either it's galvanized or stainless steel. We used to use that in the in-ground system because it was very rigid, so it would go in and out very nicely without a lot of friction. The problem is often people forget to put the hose away and they drive out and they run it over. In this case, that hose would be crushed and would need to be replaced. But our 3000 series hose is what we use commonly now. It adds just a little bit of friction, but the benefit of utilizing the 3000 series hose is that it's a no crush hose, so you could run this hose over again and again and again and not have to replace it. So most people choose to use the 3000 series hose in the underground system. Okay, again, here is our 4000 series hose and our 5000 series hose. We talked about this earlier in the presentation. The 4000 series hose can do 600 degrees continuous and up to 1200 degrees intermittent. The 5000 series hose will do 350 degrees continuous and up to 550 degrees intermittent. Both work very well on hose reels and overhead systems. The 6000 series hose is a lightweight, flame retardant, spark resistant hose. We use that on our source capture arms. And then the 7000 series hose is a family of hose, and it's incremental from 350 degrees all the way up to 2010 degrees. Now where you may need 2010 degrees, there's several different examples. It could be dynamometers. It could be Abrams M1 tank applications, things like that, large engine, high RPM, creating a lot of exhaust temperature, or the regeneration system. Now the new diesel engines have a process on it called regen, where they burn the particulate for a second time and clean out the filter by igniting the filter particulate and turning it to ash. So basically that process, although it's controllable and we recommend you do it outside, some people insist on doing it while attached to one of our source capture systems. In those applications, we're going to use the 2010 degree hose. So the thing I like to point out here is that the higher temperature rating you need, the more costly that hose becomes. And when you're talking about 2010 degrees, that's very, very expensive. But there are ways that we can overcome that cost. So earlier I told you that we like to bring in ambient air into our systems for two reasons. One, to prevent leakage, and number two, to cool the exhaust as it goes through our equipment. So here's a fine example. We can determine what your exhaust gas temp is, and knowing the quantity of ambient air that we're bringing in and the temperature of that ambient air, we can utilize an equation that will tell us when that temperature starts to dissipate. So if it's 1800 degrees that's coming out of the tailpipe and we're bringing in the 70 degree ambient air, and let's say I need 30 feet of hose, well, I may be able to do a combination hose. So my first 10 feet is this high temp 2010 degree hose, but then after that point the temperature has started to dissipate enough that the next 20 feet of hose could be a 1200 degree hose, or maybe even my 4000 series hose. And we can do a combination hose. And what that allows us to do is we can handle the application but still be cost effective. Okay, so this slide shows part of the application for an Abrams M1 tank. And we have this solution in Fort Stewart in Georgia and some other military bases throughout the United States. So basically, an Abrams M1 tank has a small turbine engine. So it's like a small jet engine. And it doesn't have a tailpipe that you could simply put an adapter on and capture the exhaust. It has a set of louvers on its rear end where that exhaust is blown out. And basically what we have here is, and I'll show you a picture on the next page, we've created a box that fits over the area where the exhaust comes out of the tank, and it's tied into some high temp hose, and then that hose is all tied into the foundation for these stacks. And then the stacks are on the outside, and the air is captured, or the exhaust is captured through the tank. So each tank has its own bay. Each bay has its own capture system. So the exhaust is captured. The velocity is so strong that it's captured into the box through that vent system, into the hose. The hose then vents into the stacks, and the stack is evacuated, or the exhaust is evacuated through the stacks to the outside and dispersed. So the velocity is so strong in this particular application, there was no need for a fan. The velocity is so strong it forces its way through the hose to the stack, and from the stack then to the outside. Okay, in this side we see, again, I was just telling you about the system for the Abrams M1 tank. So if you look at the picture on the right, that's an example of the box that fits over the louvers on the Abrams M1 tank, tied into the hose. The hose is then tied into that foundation, and that's the stack foundation. So we capture it, we send it through the hose, through the stacks to the outside. And then the picture all the way to the left, the gentleman that you see pictured in there with the ball cap, he's about 6'4", 240 pounds. So it just gives you some scale as to how large these XL hose reels are that I talked about earlier. Basically, that hose reel, the largest one that we've done, again, can handle 65 feet of 18-inch diameter hose wrapped completely around the drum. All right, this is just some more applications. The picture on the right shows a combination hose of our 4000 series combined with our 5000 series hose. This is all types of custom work that we do, custom slotted fuel hoods. The picture on the bottom left shows an exhaust adapter for a snowmobile. All right, more custom hoods. The picture in the bottom middle shows a slotted fume hood with a workbench and side skirts that really helps kind of control the airflow and makes it easier to capture the airflow with those side skirts. This is our website. The goal of the website was to make it very easy for engineers, for mechanical contractors, and for end users to go in here and find what they need. That was the goal. The feedback that we get is that we've achieved that goal. So we encourage you to go on the website, take a look at everything, but if for some reason you can't find what you need, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We'd be happy to work with you on that. If you have any questions, please reach out to us.
Okay, great. Thank you for that presentation, Mike. Now let's look at some questions from our audience. As a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, just enter it into the lower section of the Q&A window and click Submit.
Okay, Eric, the first question we have, can I use the same system to collect vehicle exhaust and welding exhaust?
Great question. That's something that we would not recommend. If we look at what's involved with the two systems, vehicle exhaust, we're dealing with internal combustion engines, and they could potentially be running raw fuel into the exhaust system. In the case of a welding system, there are obviously sparks being generated as well as the smoke, and if any of those sparks get drawn into the system, we would not want to commingle fuel fumes and sparks because it would create a fire.
Yeah, okay. All right, next question. Will one type of dust collector work for all applications?
Another great question. And particularly in dust collection, one collector will not suit all applications. For example, Mike talked about cyclone-type dust collectors. They work much like the name implies. Air enters into it at a high velocity. It swirls around inside the drum like a cyclone, but that air is slowed way down, and the heavy dust falls out. So when that heavy dust falls out, drops into the container, any light dust is going to go through to an after filter. But if we're dealing with a system that's all light dust, none of that dust would fall out of the airstream in a cyclone. Welding, for example, the particulate is fine and light, so we use a cartridge type collector. There are also applications that may have very explosive dust, exotic metals, for example, like titanium or magnesium, aluminum. Those types of metals in a gaseous, cloudy state can create an explosion. So we try to run those through what we call a wet collector. It drops into a wet slurry solution so that that cloud of dust can't be allowed to even exist to create the explosion. So no, we need to know more about the application. We need to know a lot about what you're trying to do, the dust you're trying to collect, so we can select the proper collector for your application.
Okay, next question. Can Monoxivent help me design a system?
Absolutely. We have people on staff that can certainly help design a system. As Mike showed throughout the presentation, we do have design data sheets that you can fill out. We need as much information as you can give us. We don't want someone to come and just say, hey, I need a dust collector. That really doesn't tell us anything. We need to know what the dust is, the volume, CFM if you can tell us. In some cases, for example, a wood shop, some of the tool manufacturers will tell you how much CFM each tool requires, which we can help you design that. If you can give us a simple line drawing of what the layout of the system is going to be, where the fan or dust collector is going to be, depending on the type of system, we can even help you size the ductwork and make selections for equipment for your application. So absolutely, we can help you design systems. Not a problem.
Okay, next question. How do I contact my local Monoxivent representative? And actually, a third question, and it's basically the same. Where can I find out who my local representative is?
Sure. With that, if you go to our website, monoxivent.com, there is a Locate My Rep tab or button that you can select. And in our case, it's based on the state that you're in and the county in that state. So once you get into it, select the state that you're in. And for example, if you were in Illinois and you lived in Cook County, which is Chicago, you click Illinois, click on Cook County, and then your local representatives will be displayed at the bottom of that.
Perfect. All right. What are the benefits of putting source capture solutions in my facility?
Well, the benefits are primarily we want to keep the dust, fume, particulate, whatever that happens to be, out of the breathing zone of the worker. We want to catch it at the source. That's why we do source capture, and move that away from where they're working and not allow it into the breathing zone. That's step number one. Number two, because we are source capturing it, it does take a lot less air, if you will, to do a source capture system than it would to do a general ventilation system in a complete building. Plus, by source capturing the dust, fume, particulate, we're not allowing it to even escape into the room. It keeps the building clean, keeps the employees healthy, makes for a much nicer, healthier working atmosphere.
Perfect. Okay, this is the last question, and it's a two-part question. Does Monoxivent offer systems for dynamometers? And what would that criteria be if they do?
For vehicle dynamometers, yes, we do. We can do it for not only a chassis dyno where it's the whole vehicle on the dynamometer, or an engine dyno where it's strictly the engine being tested. When we're getting into a system like that where we're doing dyno testing, it's an extreme case, obviously, but we need to know the size of the engine that we're working with, that would be cubic inches or liters. We need to know the RPM, the maximum RPM that it's going to be run during that test, and what the maximum exhaust gas temperature would be during the test. Something else that's helpful is the duration of the test, but I think that if we know the first three, cubic inches, RPM, and exhaust gas temperature, with that we can calculate roughly what that particular engine is pumping out, basically, in terms of airflow at that condition. So once we know that, then we can add the appropriate amount of dilution air to it, and now we have our total CFM for that particular dyno, for that particular engine, under that operating condition. So yes, we can absolutely do that.
Perfect. Okay, that's all the time we have for questions, Eric.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap it up right here. Once again, Mike, thank you for the presentation and your time today. And thank you to all of our audience members for being part of this webinar event. To find more information regarding monoxivent source capture, please go to our website, www.monoxivent.com. On that you can find data sheets and design sheets, what have you. Or you can always contact us via phone or email. Don't be afraid to call us or send us emails with your questions. Take care and have a great day.